I went to the hospital for a stomachache, but the doctor held the ultrasound report with trembling hands. Sir, you are pregnant. I slammed my hand on the desk. Nonsense. I'm a beta. How could I possibly have a child? The doctor swallowed hard. It's highly likely. The child's father is a top-tier Enigma, who forced your reproductive cavity into a secondary development. My vision went black. The only Enigma in the entire city, other than my bitter rival, who had been drugged, and whom I took advantage of. Who else could it be? Chapter 1. The most impulsive thing I've done in my entire life was sleeping with Elijah. Then, throwing $200 in his face and saying, your skills are just average. Take this money, get some supplements, and build up your stamina. That was Elijah, the ruthless, iron-fisted heir to the Jones family. I was practically digging my own grave. If you ask me now whether I regret it, I can only say, I regret it to death, especially right now. Clutching the lab report, I hid in the hospital bathroom stall, not even daring to breathe too loudly. And on that report, 2 glaring words were written: early pregnancy. Below that was a line of small print. Gestational age, 5 weeks. Fetal heartbeat, visible, F*CK. I am a beta. Even though I look a bit delicate and have a slender frame, I am a bona fide beta, the kind without even a trace of pheromones. How could I possibly be pregnant? I wanted to fool myself into thinking it was a misdiagnosis, but my body's recent reactions were too obvious. Lethargy, nausea, and an absolute intolerance to the smell of greasy food. The most fatal part was that I started missing Elijah's scent like crazy. 5 weeks ago, it was that windy night. My illegitimate younger brother Liam, who only knows how to cause trouble, drugged Elijah trying to curry favor. In the end, the idiot was too scared to go himself, terrified of Elijah destroying him, so he cried and begged me to go save the day. I'm a neglected, marginalized member of the Davis family, usually just the designated scapegoat. I figured I would just go and drag that idiot back, who knew that when I walked in, Elijah was already on the verge of losing control. As a beta, I shouldn't have been affected. But I don't know what happened that day. The moment I walked in, my entire body went weak. Elijah's eyes were bloodshot. He looked at me like he was looking at prey. He called my name hoarsely, Noah. At the time, completely oblivious to the danger, I mocked him. Wow, Elijah? Playing this hard? Want me to call for backup? The next second, I was pinned to the carpet by him. I had practiced Sonda for a few years, but in the face of absolute strength, I was like a ragdoll. Let me go. Elijah, are you crazy? I struggled desperately, punching and kicking. Elijah couldn't hear a word of it. He bit down hard on the flesh at the back of my neck, a place where I had absolutely no gland. It hurt so much I wanted to curse him out. And then came an entire night of nightmares. I don't even remember how I finally escaped. I only remember that before leaving, to salvage the last shred of my dignity, I pulled $200 from my pocket with trembling hands and threw it on his bedside table. Looking back now, those $200 might just be my death warrant. Footsteps sounded outside the bathroom. Is Mr. Noah still inside? It was Elijah. I held my breath, covering my mouth tightly. Why is this bastard here? Does he know I'm pregnant with his child? Impossible. I registered under a fake name. The bodyguard's voice came from outside. Mr. Elijah, I just saw Mr. Noah go into this one. Take the door down. No way, man. This is a hospital bathroom. Seeing that they were actually about to do it, I had to bite the bullet. I pressed the flush button and opened the door, pretending nothing was wrong. What are you doing? What are you doing? I bluffed while pulling up my pants. What kind of hobby is this, Mr. Elijah? You like watching people use the toilet? Elijah stood in front of the sink, wearing a custom black suit with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. That face was undeniably handsome, but also so cold it made you shiver. He was casually playing with a lighter in his hand. Seeing me come out, he didn't even lift his eyelids. Noah, what are you hiding from? I felt guilty on the inside but put up a strong front. Who's hiding? Can't I just have a frequent and urgent need to pee? Elijah's gaze swept over my flat stomach. Frequent urination? He gave a half smile. Wasn't it a stomach problem? I froze. How did this guy even know I registered at the gastroenterology department? I ate something bad, puking and having the runs. I laughed it off, just wanting to slip away quickly. You look busy, Mr. Elijah. I'll be taking my leave. I had barely taken one step when a large hand blocked my path, pinning me directly against the wall. Elijah leaned in close. That familiar scent of cedar washed over me. Damn it. My legs went weak again, and disappointingly, I kind of wanted to get closer to him. Is this the instinct after getting pregnant? So embarrassing. Haven't seen you in a month. Elijah looked down at me and said slowly, hiding from me on purpose? My body instantly tensed. Of course not. Hilarious. Why would I purposely hide from you? After that day, I ran away directly. Later, Liam went into the room in my place. So it's impossible for Elijah to know it was me. Noah, he suddenly asked. Actually, you were at that hotel that night too, weren't you? Trying to trick me? I shoved him away like an enraged cat. Are you sick in the head? Elijah, we are bitter rivals. Why would I go to the hotel you're staying at? Am I crazy enough to stalk you? Elijah lowered his eyes, masking the disappointment in them. Is that so? His gaze landed on the crumpled lab report clenched in my hand. What are you holding in your hand? I reflexively hid my hand behind my back. Toilet paper. Elijah frowned in disgust and finally stepped back half a pace. You'd better be on time for the Davis family's banquet tonight. Your brother Liam caused trouble. If you don't show up, I don't mind going directly to the Davis family to demand him. After saying that, he turned and walked away. When he reached the door, he stopped again. Also, he glanced back at me. Eat less cold food. It's bad for your stomach. Get lost. I leaned against the wall and let out a long breath. My legs were still shaking. I can't live like this anymore. Chapter 2. The taxi pulled up at the entrance of a narrow alley in the urban village. The meter jumped to $58. My heart ached as I paid the fare, pushed the door open and stepped out. A cold wind, carrying the scent of the alley's garbage cans, hit my face. My stomach immediately started churning violently. I leaned against a telephone pole and dry heaved twice, but nothing came up. In order to save money to register for that specialist doctor, I hadn't even had a sip of water since morning. I climbed up to the 6th floor, pulled out my keys, and opened the door. The moment I got inside, I threw myself onto the bed. Honestly, after that night, I was scared too. I was afraid Elijah would actually track me down. After all, before Liam entered that room, relying on my status as a young master of the Davis family, I had opposed him more than a few times. So I played along. When Michael pointed his finger at my nose and cursed me for being shameless and instigating my younger brother, not only did I not kneel down and admit fault, I actually laughed out loud. In front of the entire family, I smashed things to pieces. I even pointed at Michael's newly married younger wife and dropped this line. Control your son. Next time you get your hands on such underhanded drugs, remember not to just use them on outsiders. Save some for yourselves. Who knows, if you get pregnant, you might even fetch a good price. The effect was remarkable. I didn't even have to pack my bags. I was thrown out the front gates by the bodyguards that very night. Michael threatened to sever all ties with me and froze every single one of my cards. It was exactly what I wanted. As long as I left that circle, I was just an ordinary poor beta. No one would care if a stray dog gained a little weight or if it was pregnant. This was the freedom I wanted, even though the price was being a bit poor. But despite all my calculations, I never factored in the anomaly that was Elijah. Who could have thought? A beta, not only got taken advantage of, but I also King got pregnant. My phone suddenly buzzed, pulling me back from my memories. A transfer notification popped up on the screen, followed immediately by a text message from an unknown number. $2,000. Go buy a decent outfit. 7 p.m. A car will be waiting for you at the alley entrance. Still that freezing cold tone. Too lazy to type even one extra word. I stared at the $2,000, a sour feeling in my heart. To go or not to go? If I don't go, that lunatic Elijah might actually expose what Liam did. When that happens, Michael will definitely throw me under the bus as the scapegoat to save his own skin. If I do go with this belly of mine, I looked down at my lower abdomen, which wasn't showing yet. It was only 5 weeks. It shouldn't be noticeable. As long as I don't have morning sickness, don't pass out, and stay far away from that Enigma radiating his damn charm, I should be fine. I gritted my teeth and accepted the money. Since I can't hide, I might as well go. It's the perfect chance to see exactly what Elijah is up to and why he insists on dragging me along. I struggled up from the bed, rummaged through my boxes and cabinets, and found the old suit I wore the day I was kicked out. It was a bit wrinkled. As I ironed the clothes, I gave myself a pep talk in the mirror. Noah, steady yourself. You are a beta. You have no pheromones. You just have a bad stomach. As long as you deny it to the death, what can Elijah really do to you? 7 p.m. sharp. A black Maybach parked punctually at the entrance of the dirty, chaotic alley. The car window rolled down a crack, revealing Elijah's cold, sharp profile. Get in. The car stopped at the entrance of the villa. The moment the car door opened, the sound of approaching footsteps rang out. A figure in a white suit ran over. It was Liam. Elijah really had a lot of face. The car hadn't even fully stopped before the host was rushing to welcome him. Liam wore a practiced smile on his face, looking both shy and pleasantly surprised as he walked straight to the rear car door. Elijah, you're finally here. I've been waiting for you for so long. The car door opened. The person who stepped out was me. Gripping the car door and fighting back my nausea, I forced a smile at his stunned face. Good evening, dear little brother. Liam looked like he had swallowed a fly. 1 second he was pretending to be an innocent little white flower, and the next, his face twisted in ugly distortion. He widened his eyes, his voice shrill. Noah, why is it you? Why are you in Elijah's car? Didn't Dad kick you out? You still have the nerve to come back. Before I could speak, the car door on the other side opened. Elijah stepped out. The surrounding air seemed to drop several degrees. Liam instantly changed his expression. The bitter acidity vanished, replaced by the look of a frightened deer. He walked over with reddened eyes. Elijah, I thought you came alone. My brother was kicked out of the house, after all. Coming to a banquet dressed like this, I was afraid he would embarrass you. As he spoke, he released a tiny bit of pheromones. The sickly sweet scent of gardenias. Gag. The stomach acid rushed straight up my throat. In the past, I only thought this scent was tacky. Now that I was pregnant, just smelling it made me want to throw up. Covering my mouth, my face turning pale, I backed up 2 steps and leaned against the car, panting. It was too unbearable. Elijah glanced at Liam, ignored him, and turned to ask me, feeling unwell again? I waved my hand, unable to speak, afraid that if I opened my mouth I would throw up. Seeing Elijah show concern for me, Liam's face twisted with jealousy. He said sarcastically, Elijah, don't pay attention to him. He's just faking it. When he was at home, he always loved to fake being sick to get sympathy. In reality, he's perfectly healthy. He's just an ordinary beta. Shut up. Elijah cut him off coldly. Liam froze, biting his lip in grievance. Elijah, why are you yelling at me? That morning you clearly... That morning? My heart jumped, catching on to the key point. Did Liam actually go into Elijah's room? Elijah narrowed his eyes, staring sharply at Liam, his tone strange. About what happened that day. We really should settle the score properly. Liam's face paled, his eyes darting away, but he still tried to hold his ground. Elijah, I know what I did was wrong. I shouldn't have taken advantage of you being drunk, but it's just because I like you too much. I was stunned listening to him. This guy really dared to say anything. He didn't have a single mark on him, yet he actually dared to confess to it? Like me. Elijah let out a short laugh, though his eyes remained devoid of any humor. Like me enough to drug me? Liam's legs went weak, and he almost fell to his knees. No, I didn't. It was... He looked at me in a panic, pointed at me, and shouted, It was him. It was Noah. He gave me the drug. He said that as long as what's done is done, I could marry into the Jones family. Elijah, you have to believe me. I was tricked by him too. I laughed out of sheer anger. Talk about getting shot while lying down. The anger actually chased away a lot of my nausea. I stood up straight and said slowly, Liam, a brain is a wonderful thing. It's a pity you don't have one. If I wanted to drug him, why wouldn't I do it myself? What benefit is there for me to send you to Elijah's bed? Did I think my life in that house was too comfortable? So I wanted to cause some trouble? Liam was rendered speechless by my words, his face flushing bright red. You're just jealous that I'm an Omega. You're a useless beta yourself. Nobody wants you. Enough. Elijah impatiently interrupted the farce. He walked up to me, looking down at me, a probing look in his eyes. You just said, if it were you, you would do it yourself? My heart skipped a beat. Crap. I let something slip. I bit the bullet and forced an explanation. It was an analogy. Understand? I'm not an idiot. Why would I look for someone like you who only thinks with his lower half? Before I could finish, Elijah's face visibly darkened. Liam, standing to the side, couldn't understand the context but caught the main point and shrieked. Noah? What do you mean? Are you calling Elijah a... Go inside. Elijah didn't let me continue. He grabbed my wrist in a vice grip. Since you're here, don't embarrass yourself at the door. He dragged me inside. Liam, left behind, was unwilling to give up. He ran up, trying to hook his arm around Elijah's other arm. Elijah, wait for me. Get lost. This single command carried the unique, oppressive aura of an enigma. Liam instantly froze, his face turning paper white, looking as if someone had grabbed him by the throat. Even that gardenia pheromone scent retreated in pure terror. I was also hit by that oppressive aura, causing my legs to go weak. The child in my belly seemed to sense something and moved. It actually moved. I clearly felt my lower abdomen twitch. F***CK. What kind of baby is this? Can move at only 5 weeks? I was dragged by Elijah, stumbling as we entered the banquet hall. The heating in the grand hall was turned up high, mixed with the scents of various perfumes and sweet desserts. The moment I walked in, the nausea I had just managed to suppress surged back with a vengeance. Ugh! Couldn't hold it back. With a groan, I bent over. Elijah stopped and looked back at me. I didn't have time to care about his expression. I shook off his hand, covered my mouth, and sprinted toward the restrooms in the corner. Noah! Elijah's voice rang out behind me. I ignored him. Right now, even if God himself came down, he couldn't stop me from throwing up. Chapter 3. Rushing into the stall, I hugged the toilet, almost throwing up bile. Is this pregnancy? Screw pregnancy. This pure torture. I threw up until my tears and snot ran together, breaking out in a cold sweat all over. My legs were too weak to stand, so I could only kneel on the tiles. I finally managed to recover a bit. I flushed the toilet, pushed the door open, and stumbled to the sink. The person in the mirror looked like a ghost. Face as white as paper, lips bloodless, but the corners of my eyes were frighteningly red from vomiting so hard. I splashed a handful of cold water onto my face. The icy water cleared my head a little. Just as I reached for a paper towel, the sound of leather shoes echoed behind me. It sounded arrogant. Noah, how long are you going to keep pretending? I looked through the mirror. Liam was leaning against the doorway, arms crossed, covering his nose in disgust. Even with just the two of us, he still had to put on the airs of a wealthy young master. Pretending. I shook the water off my hands, turned around, and leaned against the sink, giving a weak, sarcastic smile. What am I pretending? Pretending to throw up for you to watch? You have a pretty unique taste, then. Liam sneered and took 2 steps closer. Don't think I don't know what you're thinking. Acting pathetic in front of Elijah on purpose. Hoping he'll pity you? Noah, take a look at yourself. An unwanted beta. Why would a top-tier enigma like Elijah ever look twice at you? There was that sickly sweet gardenia scent again. The closer he got, the stronger it became. I furrowed my brows, the nausea churning in my stomach once more. Stay away from me. I turned my head and held my breath. The stench on you is giving me a headache. Liam's expression changed, as if someone stepped on his sore spot. You're disgusted by me? This is the pheromone of a top-tier omega. A low-grade beta like you will never have this in your entire life. As if to prove a point, he deliberately released an even thicker wave of pheromones. I was going crazy. This wasn't a pheromone. It was an emetic. I didn't understand how a beta like me could be so sensitive to pheromones anyway. Ugh. I couldn't hold it in. I turned back to the sink and threw up again. You! Liam was furious. Noah, you are disgusting. How dare you throw up at my pheromones? Before he could finish, his voice abruptly stopped. Then came a suppressed sound, squeezed out from his throat. Ugh! I froze. Forgetting to wipe my mouth, I turned my head stiffly. The previously arrogant Liam was now covering his mouth and bending over. His face was flushed red, veins bulging on his neck, his other hand gripping the edge of the sink. Ugh! Another wretch. This time he couldn't hold it back. He shoved me aside, commandeered the sink next to me, and threw up even harder than I did. I was dumbfounded. My mind went completely blank. I was throwing up because I was pregnant with Elijah's child. Why was he throwing up? Did he eat something bad too? Or, an absurd thought suddenly popped into my head, making my scalp tingle. I stared at Liam's stomach, which was flat but subconsciously protected by his arm. You! My voice was shaking. Are you pregnant? Liam had thrown up until his eyes were red. Hearing my words, his body suddenly stiffened. That reaction. Very suspicious. There was definitely a problem. He hurriedly stood up, turned on the faucet, and haphazardly washed his face. His eyes darted around, completely unwilling to meet my gaze. What nonsense are you spouting? I was just grossed out by your vomit. Who's as filthy-minded as you, having all these messy thoughts in your head? Stubborn. I narrowed my eyes, thinking rapidly. That night 5 weeks ago, only Elijah and I were in the room. I was absolutely certain Elijah had only touched me. If Liam was really pregnant, then there were only two possibilities. Either he had cheated on Elijah, and this child wasn't Elijah's at all, or he was faking it. To prove that he was the person from that night and to latch onto the Jones family, he was faking early pregnancy symptoms. Regardless of which scenario it was, this was a fatal vulnerability for him. Suddenly, I wasn't panicked anymore. I even wanted to laugh a little. Is that so? Just feeling grossed out. Perfect, then. How about I take you for a blood test? An ultrasound? Or we call Elijah in and let him see why his person is throwing up just as badly as a useless beta like me? Liam's face went deathly pale. Don't you dare, he growled, fierce in appearance but cowardly at heart. Noah, if you dare say a single word of nonsense in front of Elijah, I'll have Dad break your legs. Tisk, I chuckled softly. Why so nervous? Dear little brother, I just care about your health. After all, I leaned close to his ear, dropping my voice to a whisper only we could hear. If this child is born and doesn't look like Elijah, how awkward would that be? Wouldn't you agree? It was as if I had struck Liam's sorest nerve. He violently swatted my hand away, his emotions spiraling out of control. Shut up! You shut up! This is Elijah's child. That night was me. Only me. He broke. My eyes went cold. As expected. This idiot not only wanted to steal my identity from that night, but he even wanted to pass off a bastard child as proof. Or he was genuinely faking a pregnancy. Either way, this water was too muddy to see through. I glanced at my own flat stomach, somewhat speechless. What kind of situation is this? The real deal is standing here, terrified and refusing to admit it, while the imposter over there is puking his guts out, desperate to claim it. If Elijah knew the truth, he'd probably throw both of us into the river. Creak. The restroom door was suddenly pushed open. Steady footsteps echoed. Liam and I turned our heads simultaneously. Elijah stood in the doorway, a freshly lit cigarette pinched between his fingers. Amidst the swirling smoke, his deep eyes swept over both of us. Finally, they stopped on Liam's pale face. What took so long? His voice was deep, betraying no emotion. Both of you throwing up in here? The air froze. Before I could figure out how to explain, Liam next to me suddenly made a move. As if his bones had been removed, he collapsed limply toward Elijah. His eyes were perfectly red-rimmed, his voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. Elijah! That call gave me full-body goosebumps. Elijah didn't catch him, merely stepping slightly to the side. Liam grabbed empty air, stumbling and catching himself on the doorframe as tears immediately began to fall. That's right. I was throwing up, because I'm pregnant with your child. I gasped. Good grief. This level of psychological fortitude, I'd call it #1 in the world. Claiming this deadweight lie right to the actual person's face. Wasn't he afraid Elijah would make him take a DNA test on the spot? Elijah's fingers holding the cigarette paused. His gaze was deep, his expression unreadable. Seeing that he didn't object, Liam grew bolder. Hand covering his stomach, a shy and flustered blush appeared on his face. I didn't want to hide it from you, seeing as you left so in a hurry that morning. I was also afraid of causing you trouble. But just now, I heard Dad say that you're here tonight to propose an engagement. Engagement? My heart gave a violent jolt, and I subconsciously looked at Elijah. Was he taking responsibility for that night? So, he forced me to come here tonight just so our whole family could watch him and Liam confirm their relationship? An indescribable, sour bitterness surged up from my stomach, worse than the morning sickness from just now. So that was it. No wonder Liam was so fearless. He had calculated that an old money heir like Elijah valued responsibility and promises above all else. As long as he held the person from that night card, plus a fabricated child, his position as the young madam of the Jones family would be secured. But if it had been me, Elijah definitely wouldn't do the same. After all, he hates my guts. Chapter 4. Elijah! Liam kept talking, looking at him with teary eyes. I'm so happy, but also a little scared. When I get emotional, Are you done? Elijah cut him off coldly. He bypassed Liam entirely and walked straight up to me. Those bottomless black eyes stared fixedly at me. He threw up because he's pregnant. What about you? Elijah took a step forward. He stared at my pale lips, his voice low. You just have a bad stomach? None of your business. I turned my head away and answered stiffly. Can't I throw up from being disgusted by some people's hypocrisy? Noah. Liam stomped his foot in anger nearby. This is a joyous occasion. Watch your mouth. A joyous occasion? I let out a cold laugh, forcefully suppressing the sour bitterness in my heart, and shoved Elijah away. Then I wish you both 100 years of harmony and a precious son soon. Since that's your seed, Mr. Elijah, you'd better take him back and take good care of him. Don't waste your time here with me. After saying that, I turned around and left. If I stayed any longer, I was afraid I really wouldn't be able to resist throwing a punch at Elijah, or throwing up all over him. Stop right there. Elijah reached out to grab my wrist. I was already prepared. Like a slippery fish, I dodged him, pulled open the door, and bolted out. I'm going to get some fresh air. Don't follow me. If you don't want me to throw up even more ungracefully at the banquet, stay away from me. I left, practically running away. It wasn't until I burst out of the banquet hall and ran under the wisteria trellis in the corner of the garden that I dared to stop. The night wind was cold. Blowing against my body, it raised a layer of goosebumps. I squatted on the ground, hugging my knees with both arms, and took deep, greedy breaths of fresh air. My stomach was still cramping, but my heart felt even more suffocated. Engagement. Great. Elijah and Liam, one is a blind Enigma, the other is a lying Omega. Truly a match made in heaven. I touched my flat stomach. Little one, it seems you are destined to be a fatherless child. But it doesn't matter. Being with me is fine too. At least I won't mistake your father. The lighting in the garden was dim. Not far away, the noise from the banquet hall drifted over. This kind of liveliness used to belong to me too. Back then, my mom was still alive. I was still the legitimate eldest young master of the Davis family, accustomed to acting with absolute impunity. Relying on my good background and good looks, I ran rampant among the second-generation rich kids. I roasted whoever I didn't like, and I absolutely had to get whatever caught my eye. People gave me the nickname Little Tyrant. Almost everyone walked around me when they saw me, terrified of making me unhappy. Only Elijah was an exception. The Elijah back then wasn't as gloomy and terrifying as he is now. Although he still looked like an old soul in a young body, he at least had a bit of human touch. He was famous in our circle for his excellent grades, perfect etiquette, and strict upbringing. Logically speaking, a chaotic demon king like me and a model student like him should have been people from two different worlds. But as fate would have it, we ended up hanging out together. Or rather, I unilaterally pestered him. I had a bad temper, loved to play, and loved to cause trouble. Every time I caused trouble and didn't dare tell my dad, I would go find Elijah. Although he had a sharp tongue, loved to discipline people, and would scold me with a straight face at the drop of a hat. Every single time, he would help me clean up my messes with a dark expression. He helped me write self-reflections, paid compensation for me, and fended off my suitors. I knew he did it all for my own good, and I was happy to drag him along to play. Back then, I thought Elijah was my best bro. The kind where we could never fall out in this lifetime. Until that one bar gathering. It was a farewell dinner for our group. Everyone was heading abroad to study. We were all partying like crazy. During a game of truth or dare, I lost. The dare was, pick someone in the room and French kiss them for 1 minute. The cheering almost blew the roof off. I had drank too much and my head was spinning. Without a second thought, I grabbed the collar of Elijah, who was sitting in the corner reading a book, and pulled him over. You're it, old fogey. At the time, I truly just thought it would be fun. I thought we were brothers, and a little kiss wouldn't take a piece of flesh off either of us. Elijah's eyes were very deep then. He didn't dodge. He let my alcohol-laced lips press against his. But I never expected, just as I was about to let go, he suddenly cupped the back of my head. That was the first time. I felt the suffocating, aggressive nature that belonged to an Enigma. That kiss changed flavor. It became fierce, lingering, carrying a ruthless intensity like he wanted to devour me. The cheering around us suddenly vanished. Dead silence. By the time we separated, my lips were busted. I was stunned. I shoved him away and cursed, Elijah, are you sick? It's AF * king game. Elijah, however, merely wiped the trace of blood from the corner of his mouth with his thumb. Staring at me, his voice hoarse, Noah, I wasn't playing a game. The cheering around us seemed separated by a membrane of water, becoming distant and warped. I could only hear my own heartbeat thumping like a drum. Thump, 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 unnaturally fast. His dark, heavy eyes stared at my swollen lips, and he asked me, Still want to play? I chickened out. I fled in panic. That night when I got home, I wrapped myself in my blanket. My mind was completely filled with Elijah's look, and the tingling, numb sensation on my lips. That was my first kiss, and it was Elijah's too. I tossed and turned, unable to sleep. Finally, I had to admit one fact. I didn't hate that kiss. I even reminisced about it a little. I thought about how Elijah trailed behind me cleaning up my messes all these years. I thought about how, despite his sharp tongue, his companionship was never absent. Perhaps, I did not have feelings for him. I was just used to treating him as a brother, a buddy. Now that the paper window had been pierced, some things had spoiled their original nature. I huddled under the covers all night. When dawn broke, I made a decision. Since Elijah was so proactive, this young master wasn't the coy type either. If we were going to try it, let's try it. Anyway, our families were old friends, we knew each other inside out, and he was handsome. Aside from his habit of wanting to control people, there wasn't anything bad about him. I even rehearsed my lines in my head, preparing to go find him in the afternoon and generously say, Elijah, I agree. From now on, you answer to me. However, life is like a terrible screenwriter, always loving to slap you in the face right when you're most proud. That afternoon, the differentiation test report came out. It was like a basin of ice water was poured over my head. Name, NOAA differentiation result. Beta reproductive cavity. Undeveloped/degenerated. A beta. Mediocre, ordinary, pheromone-less, unmarkable, and very difficult to impregnate. And Elijah. He was the sole heir to the Jones family, the favored son of heaven who differentiated into a top-tier Enigma. In the ABO world, Enigmas were born to dominate Omegas. Their union was to breed superior offspring, for the glory of the family. And a beta, looking at that report, I suddenly felt like a joke. That same year, my mom died on the spot in a car accident. Before I could even recover from the pain of losing my mother, my so-called father couldn't wait to bring his mistress into the house the very next year. He also brought back an illegitimate son who was only a year younger than me, Liam. Even more hilariously, he was an Omega. Then, the news that I had differentiated into a beta spread throughout the circle. Everyone looked down on me, but I was used to being proud. Even if I had no power or influence anymore, whoever provoked me, I would still fight them to the end, including Elijah. But Elijah never seemed to know his boundaries, still wanting to control me like before. I could only hide my true feelings while directing cold, sarcastic words at him. Chapter 5. Why are you hiding here all alone? A cold, clear voice sounded, interrupting my memories. My whole body stiffened. I looked up. Elijah was standing outside the wisteria trellis. I didn't know since when. He held a half-smoked cigarette between his fingers, the ember glowing intermittently in the darkness. He looked at me, his gaze seemingly colder than the night itself. Noah, I have something to ask you. I instinctively tried to dodge him. Looking like this, he was the last person I wanted to see right now. Nothing to say. I pushed off my knees to stand up, but because I rose too fast, my vision went black for a second. My stomach was still cramping, but I fought through the discomfort, turning sideways to bypass him. Excuse me, Mr. Elijah. I had barely taken one step when my wrist was grabbed in a vice grip. If it were in the past, I would have thrown a punch ages ago. But now, that piece of flesh in my belly seemed to sense its father's pheromones and actually quivered twice in excitement. My legs went weak and I almost dropped straight to my knees. I could only grit my teeth and grip the adjacent trellis pillar tightly to barely steady myself. Let go! I roared, trying to sound intimidating, but my voice was incredibly weak. Elijah didn't let go. Instead, he applied a little force, pulling my entire body right in front of him. The scent of cedar rushed into my nasal cavity overwhelmingly. It smelled so good I wanted to cry. A pregnant Omega, even if I was a counterfeit defective beta, had absolutely zero resistance to the father's pheromones. I had to pinch my palms desperately, using the pain to restrain myself from hugging him. What exactly do you want? I glared at him with red eyes. Elijah looked down at me. The emotion in his eyes was very heavy, like a pool of undissolving ink. He dropped the cigarette at his feet and crushed it out. Then he grabbed my shoulders with both hands, trapping me between him and the pillar. I'm just going to ask you one thing. Back then, did I scare you? I froze. What? Elijah stared into my eyes. That kiss, was it because I lost control at the time and was too forceful, so I scared you? Is that why you've refused to acknowledge me all these years, hiding whenever you see me, even going so far as to use that illegitimate son to anger me? I opened my mouth but couldn't make a sound. An absurd and sour emotion exploded in my chest. He thought I distanced myself from him because of that kiss? He thought I was scared? How could that be possible? If it weren't for that damn beta differentiation report the next day, if it weren't for my mom suddenly passing away, if it weren't for me knowing I wasn't good enough for him, I would have shamelessly glued myself to him long ago. But now, looking at him like this, I couldn't say a single word. If that's the case, I apologize to you. That was my first time. I had no experience. I didn't know what to do so as not to hurt you. But Noah, his voice trembled slightly, carrying a trace of begging. I'm begging you. Please don't ignore me, okay? My heart ached with a sour pain. I had always thought that for the past 5 years, I was the only one struggling in the mud. Turns out he never moved on either. Tears surged up uncontrollably, blurring my vision. I wanted so badly to tell him the truth. To tell him I wasn't afraid of him. I was just a beta with no future who didn't dare hold back a great young master like him. To tell him I was currently carrying his child in my belly. Feeling so sick I wanted to throw up. But when the words reached my lips, they morphed into something else entirely. Elijah, are you sick in the head? I turned my head away, blinking hard to clear the moisture from my eyes, my voice cold and hard. How many years has it been? Why are you bringing up ancient history? I hide from you because I can't stand the sight of you, because you're annoying. What does that have to do with that kiss? Elijah's body stiffened. The tiny sliver of hope that had just risen in his eyes instantly shattered. Can't stand the sight of me? Yeah. I hardened my heart and continued twisting the knife in his chest. You are a high and mighty Enigma, and I am a beta who's like mud that can't stick to the wall. We were never from the same world to begin with. And now you're about to get engaged. Although Liam is an idiot, he is an Omega. He can give you children. That's great, really? At this point, my stomach churned violently again. I didn't know if it was from nausea or from making myself angry. Let go of me. I need to go back and throw up. I shoved him hard. But Elijah didn't budge an inch. He stared at me dead on. Noah, you're lying. Panicked. What am I lying about? Elijah, let go. Who else but you would leave $200 on the bed after we finished? My movements abruptly stopped. Also, did you think I didn't hear what you said? Noah, you screamed until your voice went hoarse that night, and in the end you were crying and begging me to stop. Is that what you call average skills? I wanted to refute it, but couldn't find an excuse. The evidence was conclusive. So this son of a bitch knew everything. I gritted my teeth, my voice trembling. So you knew everything. Then what are you even doing here? Because I wasn't sure if you were willing. You ran away too fast, Noah. For the past month, I've been thinking every day, if I came directly to your door, would you push me further away again, just like you did 5 years ago? My throat went dry. Aren't you here to propose to Liam? Who said that? Elijah frowned. I am here to propose to you. Chapter 6. The wind seemed to have stopped. All the surrounding noise faded away. I stared at him blankly. Proposing to me. Marrying a beta with no pheromones and a ruined reputation. You're crazy. I muttered to myself, my eyes stinging fiercely. I'm a beta. I can't give you children. I can't be marked. And the Jones family will never agree. I don't care. Elijah interrupted my self-deprecation, cupping my face and brushing his thumbs across the corners of my eyes. Screw being a beta, and screw compatibility. Noah, whether it was 5 years ago or now, the only person I've ever had my eyes on is you. That night, too. If I hadn't smelled your scent, even if I was given a ton of drugs, I wouldn't have touched anyone else. As for children, his gaze shifted down, landing on my flat stomach. Even though you're a beta, why do I feel like you're already carrying one in this belly of yours? My body stiffened. The hand covering my stomach subconsciously tightened. You could tell? Elijah let out a soft chuckle. You throw up the moment you smell Liam's pheromones, but dive into my arms when you smell mine. Noah, I'm an enigma, not an idiot. I can feel my own child. My final line of defense collapsed. My nose stung, and the month's worth of accumulated grievances, panic, and anxiety completely burst forth in this moment. Elijah, you bastard. I cursed with a sob, crashing hard into his embrace. Gripping his waist tightly with both hands, I buried my face in his chest, greedily breathing in that scent that made me feel so safe. It's so miserable. This little brat is torturing me to death. Elijah tightened his arms, holding me securely. It's okay now. He kissed the top of my head, his voice hoarse. I'll make him behave from now on. When we returned to the banquet hall, Liam was holding Michael's arm, accepting everyone's congratulations with a face full of coy shyness. Michael's face was glowing red as he raised his glass and announced loudly, "Thank you all for coming. Today, besides the banquet, I have 2 joyous pieces of news to announce. First, my son Liam is pregnant. Second, his marriage to the Jones family. Marriage? Elijah strode in, his arm wrapped tightly around my waist. The entire hall instantly fell silent. Everyone's gaze centered on me. The beta who had been kicked out of the house, now being protectively held in Elijah's arms. Liam's smile froze on his face, a flash of panic in his eyes. Elijah, Dad is announcing our perfect timing. I happen to have a gift for you, too. Elijah raised his hand. The assistant behind him handed over a document, projecting it directly onto the large screen. It was a detailed investigation report from a private detective. Attached were several high-definition videos and medical records. In the video, Liam was partying wildly at a certain club, surrounded by 3 alphas in an indecent scene. The timestamp showed it was exactly half a month before the night of the drugging. The crowd immediately exploded into an uproar. Elijah looked coldly at the deathly pale Liam, 8 weeks pregnant. At that time, I was on a business trip abroad and hadn't even returned yet. Liam, exactly whose mess were you trying to make me clean up? I heard you got pregnant messing around with 3 alphas that night. Because you don't know whose child it is, and you were desperate to secure a good status for it, you decided to target me? Liam's legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the floor. No, it's not. Michael's wine glass shattered on the ground with a crash, his face turning livid. Leaning against Elijah's chest, watching this farce unfold, I couldn't help but let out a whistle. Impressive, dear little brother. Handling 3 at once, you really have a lot of stamina. Liam glared at me viciously, screaming, Noah, it's you. You must have framed me. Enough. Michael slapped Liam across the face, directly stunning him. You humiliating disgrace. Get back home right now. Elijah didn't spare them another glance. He turned to face the crowd and, in front of everyone, lowered his head to kiss my forehead. Everyone, I'll take this opportunity to clarify something. The person I am going to marry has always been, and will only ever be, Noah. As for the child, he placed his hand on my still flat lower abdomen. This one is mine. The entire hall erupted in gasps of amazement. My face flushed bright red, and I muttered a curse at him. Elijah, have you no shame? He chuckled softly, leaning close to my ear. Why do I need shame? I want a wife. Also, those $200 are still sitting on my nightstand. Noah, we will settle that score slowly once we get home. My legs went weak. I'm doomed. I'm really going to be entangled with this guy now. However, touching the little life in my belly, I think this time I probably won't have to run away anymore. If you enjoyed this story, remember to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.